Hi, Professor. Um, Here I am again for your sixth, I'm gonna say sixth, um, reflection. Okay, so we're talking about creativity and diversity. Um, and so when I was reading this, it says that, you can't really just say that, a person is like creative or whatever. And there has to be, like pretty much like three different, like criteria, I would say. Um, but people are creative when they have domain relevant skills, right? So, for example, someone who is creative in like the arts probably isn't creative in like I don't know, sciences, right? So it has to be like relevant to kind of like the domain that you're like really creative in. And then you also need creativity. Oh my gosh, creativity relevant skills. And so these are skills which I thought was interesting when I was reading them because even though if you are creative, if you're pretty close minded or if you're really not open to suggestions or ideas, you kind of like lose that creativity, right? So, some of those skills, talk about like being able to just, open your mind and just like not be like critical. And then you have your last one, which is like task motivation. And that's just basically like your intrinsic motivation. Because I was reading and it says that even being rewarded to do something that you like may eventually like reduce the intrinsic motivation, which I kind of thought about that because I was like, if someone was paying me, I'd want to do right. But then you do lose like your like passion for it because you're not doing it because like you want to or because it's just like flowing, but it's like, oh, someone's paying for it, and now you have to like, it's kind of like this like pressure thing, right? Like you feel like there's too much pressure. So those are interesting to know that that's kind of like what creativity really is. It's not like something you can just say like, oh, you're creative because yeah, blah blah blah. Like it's a lot of like factors, and it's like hard because the book is like saying like, oh, if you need like more creativity in your teams, um just hire like creative people. Like how do you just hire more creative people? Anyways, um the problems with group creativity I thought was also really interesting because as a group, so you're producing more quantity work but less quality work as you would be um, if you were like by yourself. And that does make sense because if you have all of these people putting in ideas, you kind of like do start like deteriorating in terms of like novelty and like what you're really coming up with. And then you have just a lot of like so you have like cognitive interference that disrupts like other people's thinking because like you're waiting to speak and no one's really like writing stuff down, or like you had an idea and someone said something else and like you like really like their idea and you piggyback off of this, but like your idea was like never said because like it never came to you, or never got around back to you. um, and then also social inhibitors, which is like kind of just like that psychological feeling whether you feel safe to disclose in a group or not. um, and so those are like some big things when you have to think about like you creativity for like a product or something that you're using. I mean, something that you have to like come up with. um, Brainstorming as well. I thought it was interesting because well, I've never had like a good brainstorming session. According to like the book, where your four basic rules of brainstorming are no criticisms, think of whatever you want, like everything's like encouraged. You want multiple ideas, and then combining and building on the ideas of others is good. And I feel like four is probably like the last one that I feel like I've kind of like touched on with like brainstorming sessions I've had before. But I know for sure like someone would say something when you're trying to brainstorm and you're like, I don't really like that idea, or maybe we can do something. And so I feel like those little like kind of like do keep you from wanting to share, because you're like, okay, well, if you didn't really like that idea, then like why would you keep saying anything else? So that is like really huge, because you want to be able to have people like really just brainstorm everything, because it's just like, and but then it goes back to like that whole like quantity over quality thing, because you're getting all of these ideas and you're not really saying yes or no to any of them, you're just kind of piling them on. It like kind of just makes the quality like less, but then you have to be able to just I guess refine those ideas. um, Also, I know that like dissent within a team also helps with creativity, like just like having like people agree on something like doesn't really make creative ideas uh, really like come to life. Like you kind of need that like friction to get people to like really like think about it and like make it like an ongoing process, right? Because that's how like the Pixar people make their movies, and everybody else, like they don't just like plop down with like an idea and they're like, okay, this is gonna be a movie. Like no, it's like starts from like scratch. Like you do like a little like storyboard idea, and then like you fuck around with it, and like you're just doing a lot of other shit. Oh my god, I'm cussing way too much. But you put in all of your ideas, and they're in stages. Like you start with like one stage where it's just like brainstorming and all that, and then from those brainstorming ideas, you really move on to like all of the stages that you really need, um, to kind of keep that going and flowing. So that's creativity. Diversity is also another interesting chapter, because I always thought diversity as like ethnicity, right? I don't really think diversity was, gender, and like now, and then it's even more like it's, so they're looking at like your demographics, right? Which is like your typical like gender, race, ethnicity, nationality, um, age, and all that stuff, which is something you could like see more. But then you have like your psychological ones, which is like your values, like whether you're liberal or if you're religious, your skills, your knowledge. That one was really something new to me. So I don't know that that was like also part of like the diversity. And then you have like the organizational, which is like your status. Like if you're working with like a boss and like a supervisor, or like someone who's like your status with somebody else. So these are all different types of diversity that goes into teams, and that's a lot. Like when you think about it, like even yourself as a person, you're very diverse, um, because you have all of these little categories that you fall into or not fall into, and then the next like person next to you, like we might be similar in like our ethnicity, but like I could be not religious, and the person next to me, who's also Hispanic and a woman, is like extremely like religious. So all of these like different little things like really do change like diversity in a team. And so I like to know that even though you are like diverse in like the way of thinking or whatever, you're still able to create like cohesion within a team if you do it right, and doesn't get rid of those diverse characteristics. However, it does help people like identify more with like the team, and like have that like social and emotional, um, I guess, what would you say, like identity, right? To actually like want to care about like doing something good for the team. I thought that those misperceptions, right, of this, is once again with the gender. So like mad at that. Stupid. Okay, dumb research study showed that the male tendency is to evaluate less educated female teammates more favorably when compared to highly educated female teammates. And so that's just like so wrong. Like guys really feel so inferior to women who could possibly be smarter than them. Um, so that was just like really like and another little thing, the problem of diversity in teams is when the team overlooks the right answer because the wrong person came up with it. So again, like you could be very smart and say exactly what the team needs to hear, but if you're not of value to them, if they don't see you as like someone who has like a good valuable opinion, who's not like the majority, who's not a man, like they're just gonna be like, okay, whatever. So it's just like it's really like cloudy judgment, like that you can't like accept that somebody can provide those resources for you. So that's one of those like issues with diversity, and I kind of just like hope that like people are smart enough to realize that like everyone has like contributions to make. Gladly, no one in our team is like that. Everyone has like their own little like uniqueness to them, but no one like really bashes each other or like looks down. Um, so I'm really glad that my team is a-okay on that one. And yeah, that is my log, and I will see you later. Bye.